Hey everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm on the all-new Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE edition. It is a liquid-cooled 1200cc parallel twin engine with a 270-degree crank. It has brushed 2-to-2 exhaust system. It has a twin-sided aluminum 22.8-inch long swing arm, fully adjustable Öhlins piggyback reservoir 9.8-inch shocks at the rear, and on the front it has fully adjustable Showa 47mm inverted forks, also with 9.8 inches of travel. A 34.3-inch seat height. Full-color TFT instrument display that can be fully personalized. Keyless ignition, USB chargers, and heated grips come as standard. 5 rider modes including Off-Road Pro. I guess 6 rider modes on the XE if you include the customizable rider mode. It has a beautiful seamless 4.2 gallon tank. It's 6-speed with a wet multi-plate assisted clutch. Front brakes are 320mm dual discs with Brembo M50 monoblock calipers. Switchable ABS. Rear brake is also a Brembo 2-piston floating caliper on a 255mm disc. It puts out 89 horsepower with 81 foot-pounds of torque at 3,950 RPM. Everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm on the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE. I'm starting the video without being on the bike because this bike is very tall because of these long travel forks, and I'll show you on this side. This massive spring-loaded rear shocks on either side. It gives it kind of an illusion that they're not as long as they are because of that high exhaust, but these things are so long. Now I can swing my leg over it without having to do the mounting of it like a horse, but there's very little suspension sag, and I'm on my toes. You can see I'm 5'7.5", 5'8", with a 30-inch inseam, so I'm on my toes when I'm on either side of this. Extremely long kickstand, so you gotta kind of lean the bike away from it. That's how much of a lean there is on the bike if my leg is straight and flat-footed. It is a heavy bike, it's tall and heavy. We'll see how I get on with it. And away we go. Just off that 20 yards that I just rode, I can already feel that this bike is more substantial than the XC version. I rode the XC version before this because I actually rode all 3 Scramblers. I rode the Street Scrambler, I rode the XC, and now I'm here on the XE version. So I went from short to tall, and I went from lowest power to highest power, lowest features to highest features, so I can get an idea of how they compare growing into them. This thing is top of the line. I don't like the fact that the handlebars, I don't know if you can see in the video, but the handlebars are kind of off camber to the left, which makes me think that the wheel's out of whack or something's going on screwy with the handlebars. So that's a bit disconcerting because I don't feel like it's tracking straight. No, it's pulling a dash to the left, but visually it's pulling to the left. So that's specific to this bike, I think. The taller forks on the front bring the cockpit up a little closer to me than the XC version. This display is the same display, and this is adjustable on the fly. You don't have to pull anything out. It's just tension adjustments. I have that all the way up so I can see it. I noticed that when I had it down on the XC, it was useless. I have it all the way towards me. Gives me a little bit of a windshield effect on it, which I like. But those taller forks, whatever the extra suspension travel these longer forks afford, give me more of a cockpit. I'm sitting more in the bike than I was on the XC. I was disappointed with the XC and how I was sitting kind of on top of it. And even though it was such a big bike, such a substantial bike, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Not too uncomfortable here at the traffic lights. Just on the ball of my feet there. I'm quite comfortable. The road's a little cambered away from me, but maybe that little that inch or so decline in front of me is giving me a more comfortable stance here. But I'm not uncomfortable here at the traffic light. I do love the power of that engine. This 1200 engine is nice. So I was saying, cockpit kind of comes up a little bit towards me. I feel like I'm more in it. On the XC, I felt like I had to look down to see the bike. I felt the same way I felt when I rode the Honda Grom. Like I had to trust that it was underneath me. This one, I can see it all out in front of me. These broad bars and these Barkbuster handguards are a lot more substantial than on other bikes. So it's really a formidable cockpit here. Fourth gear, 45, 47 miles an hour, 3,000 RPM. It's quite comfortable. Other than that kind of disconcerting height getting on and off it, it's a very comfortable road ride. They say the XC is more road oriented, but I didn't feel comfortable on it on the road. I don't know if it was the proportions were just a little out of my zone. Where this, even though it's tall, I'm really quite comfortable on it. The engine tuning, I'm feeling a bit snatchy or jittery on that throttle. I'm in third gear, maybe that's too low. Second gear, it's a bit more punchy. Wow, I don't know if you saw that, but I was just thrown back a little. I also noticed on the XC that when I hammered on the accelerator, that front end came up and those shocks slammed down, and I felt like I was really kind of launching. This is a lot more stable. It doesn't come up on the front so much. Little wind buffeting around my head there. $75 miles an hour, fifth gear, 5,000 RPMs. A little buzz in the handlebars, but there is a sixth gear on this, it being the 1200 Triumph. I'm disappointed in the little Scrambler because it only has 5 gears. If that had 6 gears, that would be a sweet spot bike for me, but it's a little, for the price you're paying for it, I think they've cut some corners. They've made it a bit budget without the budget price, so that's disappointing to me. I don't know if I like the high exhaust. I like the look of the high exhaust. I think everyone likes the look of the high exhaust, but when I really go to clamp this teardrop tank shape, it's really elegant looking. It's just really supple and sexy, and the fact that it's seamless makes it even that much more supple and sexy, but I can't really clamp. I'm kind of pinching my knees in like I'm holding in like I have to piss really bad if I want to try and get those knees around that tank, and that side just resting on those exhausts right there, and that's where all the vibration is. So I find myself flaring my knees out, and the insides of my thighs are really cold with all this wind. All right, wind is uncomfortable at 74, 75 miles an hour. It's really just barreling in my chest and shoulders. I'm holding on for dear life, and the torque on this, look at this thing. McLaren, Christ almighty. Talk about top of the line. So 56 miles an hour, fourth gear, 3,800 RPM, some serious vibration in my handlebars. I gotta keep my leg off of that exhaust or it just vibes it uncomfortably. It's almost like those old video games, or not video games, carnival novelties, where you pay a quarter and it has a really quick vibration and that you feel like you're getting an electric shock. That's what's happening to my leg. It's a carnival amusement to feel uncomfortable. Just like at the carnival, you're paying a premium for the privilege. I'm at a even ground now without that kind of decline, and I'm very comfortable with my leg up. Foot's flat. I have to say I'm enjoying this better than I'm enjoying the XC, and this is where everyone tells me it's the same exact bike except for the suspension. It's amazing how different bikes can feel with very little. It's very interesting how different bikes can feel with just minor tweaks to the ergonomics or the suspension. These days, most motorcycle manufacturers are building a single platform and then building an entire line of bikes around that single platform, which is very economical. And when you have the engines that are out today, think of the XSR engines, the 700 and the 900, think of this Triumph 1200 engine. When you have that platform, it makes complete sense, and you can't fault them. It's not like they're giving you less performance. Ooh, a bit rattly when you're coming up from low RPMs in the wrong gear. It was a bit industrial, wasn't it? I don't know if you saw it, but it really shook and made a disappointing noise. It wasn't happy with me. But I'd say already, I think the XE with this suspension mods feels a lot better, and I also feel like I'm avoiding, I don't know if it's because of muscle memory that I know it's there, but I don't feel like it's as difficult to avoid that high exhaust on this bike as it was on the XC. The wind is a bit more noticeable on this than the XC, and I don't know if it's because these things are sending wind higher into my shoulders, but 6th gear, 63 miles an hour, you're running about 3,200 RPM. It's very comfortable. The wind has all but disappeared at this speed. They use this very stupid term for tall, a commanding ride height. They want this thing to be an off-roader, and this thing just did really well on a 1,000-mile desert race. I mean, I say really well, extremely well for a stock 1,200 bike when you're riding against motocross and enduro proper off-road bikes. In order to get that off-road capability, you need it to be tall. But people don't like tall motorcycles. It scares them. You got a tall motorcycle, you're not going to sell a lot, which is why they offered the shorter XC version. But I'll tell you, I can forgive the height on this because I'm getting a better ride than I am on the XC. The XC, after riding this, I was disappointed, and you'll know when you hear what I say about it. If you watch that video on the XC, you'll know. That's safe. There's a squid there. We're all moving at speed, but this guy's going down the center lane. That's a death wish right there. Can't abide idiots. But I'll say this extra height is giving it a better ride quality, even out here on the road. I think I said before that they said the road version of this was the XC. But next to these big lorries, some bikes you get totally knocked around, especially here in this kind of death zone I'm in right now. And I'm not getting any buffeting off this truck. And this bike is not moving at all. It's just so grounded. Anyway, so I have a commanding ride height, really high. If you see it as I'm passing these cars, I'm really high on this. I mean, on this, I'm over the wheel on these big 18-wheelers. I'm riding the same route I took the XC and the Street Scrambler on, and already this thing is outperforming the others. Really am enjoying this ride. Very comfortable on the highway. I used to be of the mind that if I didn't buy the top end or the top spec'd motorcycle, car, bicycle when I was back into bicycling very avidly, if I didn't buy it, I was somehow making a compromise to the performance of how I would use it. And ultimately, finances dictated what I could afford and what I could end up buying. And I realized that I never really missed those extra options or those extra features that I couldn't afford or opted not to buy because I couldn't justify the purchase. But I don't know the difference in cost. I think it's maybe £1,000 or so, give or take, the difference in cost between the XC and the XE. And already I can see the value, the added value in the heightened suspension on this. I don't think I'd ever use off-road pro mode, which is the only other riding mode that you get with this. I thought you were supposed to get heated grips, but I don't see heated grips on this. Oh, there you go. Oh, they're really low profile. I love that. That's nice. So you do get heated grips. So if you can handle the height, and I think maybe, I wonder if those longer rear suspension coils make the exhaust run differently along the right side, because I'm not having that same issue with my right leg against this exhaust. I'm going to have to look at the XC when I get back to the dealership. I mean, I'm stuck in traffic. There's a van here, there's a huge lorry here, there's cars zipping by me in the fast lane here, and I'm not getting any of the knocking wind that you get when you're in this kind of congested, heavy transport traffic. I'm going to go a little faster just to see where the wind is. 70 miles an hour is still fine. Wind is manageable. It's 3,800 RPM, 6th gear. 74 miles an hour. I'm at 4,000 RPM, 6th gear. The wind machine has turned on, and I'm getting serious vibrations in my handlebars. If I push past 4,000 RPM, the wind stays the same. I'm about 8 miles an hour now. Wind stays the same, so I'm really kind of muscling against the wind right now. It's not a comfortable ride as much as it was at 65 or just under 70 miles an hour. But if I get past that 4,000 RPM threshold, the vibrations disappear. It's just at that 4,000 RPMs in 6th gear. Yeah, six gears, 74 miles an hour. Getting used to the wind. I'm still pushing against it, but that buzzing only in the throttle hand. I'm not getting any buzzing here in the clutch hand. There's no buzzing in the seat. There's no buzzing in the foot pegs. If I do pinch my right leg in 2 or 3 millimeters, I will get that disconcerting shock from the high pipes. Yeah, I think once you kind of get up to this speed and you're used to that wind and you realize what kind of grip you need on these handlebars, it's manageable at this high speed. I much prefer it at the 65, 64 mile an hour zone. Yeah, 4,000 RPM, my throttle hand is buzzing. 3,800 RPM, 71 miles an hour, disappears. I mean, it doesn't disappear, but it's reduced so noticeably that I said it disappears. That's how different it is, in that difference of 200 RPM. Just cruising along. Yeah, I like this bike, man. I did not like the XC, but I like this bike. That engine just is power to spare. I mean, I'm at 70 miles an hour and you just have so much more to go. That's a really powerful engine. Wow, yeah. All right, let's get off the highway because you don't really feel the height of the bike out here on the highway. You actually appreciate the height of the bike out here on the highway. Appreciate in a good way, I should say. You might appreciate the height of the bike or start respecting the height of the bike once you get into the smaller roads. It's just a great noise. It just growls at you. It's a high-class problem, as my grandfather used to say. The high-class problem is the fact that I now have another motorcycle that's made it into the short list. I've been oogling urban GSs on the various online trading sites, thinking that's going to be the next bike. And I've kind of eliminated these scramblers in my head because of how disappointing, well, not disappointing, how unsuited the Street Scrambler and the XC 1200 was to my needs. But this thing is a bit of a revelation. Let's see if I can talk myself out of it on the side roads. Coming down in gear reminds me a bit of my 800 GS. And if you're in the wrong gear coming down from speed, it will protest. And this gives a little bit of protest when you're in low RPM and you're in the wrong gear. I'm at 1200 RPM right now in third gear. It's making that. I don't know if you can hear it. There, 1000 RPM. That's when it starts to buck. So it's a bit less forgiving than other bikes I've been on that really let you use the whole range. I mean, you can go down in third gear down like below 1000 RPM on a couple of bikes I've ridden lately, and it's like you're riding an automatic. And I complained about that, so yeah. I thought that was boring, so maybe the fact that this is giving me the feedback that I'm used to, I've been kind of trained away from that. I shouldn't look at it as a bad thing. Maybe they're giving me what I've been asking for. Or maybe how smooth the other bikes are better than I thought they were. I'll let you decide, ladies and gentlemen. The commanding ride height is making it a lot easier when I have a tailgater to get off my ass, because there's no missing me. I've also noticed how easy this clutch is. This is a very sympathetic clutch lever. I am not, my hand is not tired at all. And because of the feedback from the engine, you do find yourself using the gears as if it was a smaller engine. You're using the gears a bit more frequently, but I'm not tired or fatigued at all by it. A little gravel. Let's go, baby. Oh God, I'm gonna drop it. Holy shit. That's it, ladies. Whew, that was heavy. Oh my God, that's tall. That's tall. And that's heavy. And on the loose stuff, that's scary. I swear to God I was gonna drop that bike. If I was, I'm still gonna drop it. Shut up. Jesus Christ. Whew, I gotta catch my breath. Oh my God. Couldn't figure out how to turn it on. Usually that means power, right? I guess that's ignition? That was weird. It's gonna be here a while. Alright, let's not fall off this thing. Well, that near miss made me wonder what kind of crash protection comes available on this thing. I'm sure the longer it's around, the more that will be available. Very tall and heavy coming up that hill there. Hopefully my commanding ride height will help me on these single tracks. An emergency stop on this and having to put my foot down would put a lot of momentum and weight to manage. If you learn how to slide your ass across this flat seat. I'm really appreciating this flat seat too. I had a rally seat on my F700 GS. That was really good for moving around and sliding around on, but then I put a comfort seat on it, and now you're kind of locked in place, which I appreciate the extra comfort for my big fat ass, but the maneuverability. I'm in third gear. Second gear seems a bit twitchy. Third gear doesn't like the low speeds. I'm trying to find where the low speed joy is. I think I'm coming up to that little overpass that has the dirt that I was on the XC for, so I'm wondering if I can play around a little bit here. Oh, there's a U-Haul here. There's an Argos guy. Come on, man, I want to play. Let's see it come off. I'm higher, so I gotta watch those trees higher. It's a bit more twitchy at low speeds than the XC. I can't imagine it's tuned differently, but I didn't feel like I had to feather the clutch on the XC. I do feel like I have to feather the clutch on this thing. I'm gonna see how I can maneuver at slow speeds. Turn your head. Nope! Jesus, it's heavy. You really gotta treat this like, kind of like a big touring GS thing. I mean, it's tall, it's heavy. Wait out, wait out, wait out, wait out. Yeah, there's a U-turn, everybody. Yeah, you really gotta slide your butt off the side and use that real big bike maneuvering and really, off the curb. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I think I'd need to get used to this. Nope, foot down. It's a big bike. No, I didn't see it. I looked right at the curb. You're gonna look to where you go, everybody. And if you look at the curb, you're gonna hit the curb. I'm gonna annoy all these people in these nice big houses. Nope, I'm not looking at the curb, but I'm going to the curb anyway. Alright, enough with U-turn practice. I'll practice if I buy it. Let's go back to that dirt and see what this is about. Stand up. Yeah, the leg is against that exhaust, but it's in a different place. It's not as uncomfortable as on the XC. I think it's in a different place because I'm not getting that pain in the same spot. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting to know it, becoming more intuitive. It is a big bike. You gotta respect a big bike. This is a very capable big bike. This road's busy today. It's harder for me to go back and forth on that dirt, but I'm gonna go back again one more time. It's a big bike. It's a bit unwieldy for me. I think I'd really have to spend some time in the saddle to get, oh my God, what was that? I'm in third gear now. Oh, it's as nice. It's a little nicer. Yeah, it's a little nicer than the XC off-road. That was gorgeous. All right, last time through the muck. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think if I got this bike, I definitely need some crash protection because it's going down. It's going downtown. This thing, Jesus. Ooh, little driveway off the dirt. There we go. Oh, it's just eating this stuff up. And this clutch is actually really nice. I'm able to feather it. You don't have to bring the clutch lever all the way to the handlebar, all the way to the grip. You can engage it right up against your fingers. So like, it's up against my fingers. So feathering this clutch is really nice. It's a really nice range for that clutch action. I find if my fingers are in the way on my BMW, the clutch doesn't disengage. And I know that's an adjustment issue. Jesus Christ. Huh. Okay. Well, I don't know if you heard that, but the fan kicked in. I guess it's getting hot. I can definitely feel the heat against my leg here, and there's heat coming up from the bottom. But yeah, I was in second gear, and I was going slow. It was a little better. It was all right in second gear going slow, but I did stall it. So, but the fan kicked in, so it is getting a bit angry at me. It is down to start. And you can hear the fan kicked on already. You know, I say it's unwieldy, I say it's top heavy, and I can definitely see a window of time when I would not be able to ride this bike. And actually, I'm really learning how to ride it because I've just kind of slid my ass over to counterbalance it intuitively now because I'm learning to ride it, which I love. I love getting to know a motorcycle, I really do. This is a bike that I could get comfortable with. I would love to get to know this bike. I would forgive the things I'm finding fault with. Not finding fault. I forgive my own fault. I would learn this bike. Now that I'm standing up, my right leg is right up against that exhaust, and I feel like my right foot is being pushed off of that right peg. I think a longer right peg would be required for me because I'm really doing this pinching in thing, and if I get knocked, my foot's coming off that quite easily. I might go up this dirt road just to see about getting in trouble, see if someone yells at me. Look at that. Holy shit, that's awesome. That was fantastic. Now this is where I get caught out on it because it's so big. Just counterbalance. Don't hit the fence. Yep, I gotta pull it back. Ugh. Yep, I gotta get off it. It's too tall for me to back it up. If you make sure your bike's in gear, it's not going to roll forward or back. And I've learned this at the dispatch rally from a guy named James who ran the rally and was pretty brilliant. He taught me if on this loose stuff you don't want to, and on a tall bike, you don't want to go over the other side. You can't throw your leg over and you risk tipping the bike that way, or if it's loose, or if there's an off camber. So you're going to get on the bike by locking. So you're going to lock the handlebar, you're going to lock it away from you, you're going to come over the bike and put your foot right onto the peg. Lock the handlebar right over onto the peg, and then you're really comfortable on this loose stuff. That was a great little trick I learned. But I don't know if you saw this rut here, this big rut, and the bike just soaked it up with the suspension. What a great bike. What a great bike. I love learning new things. Let's go over this and down that. Yeah, I do feel uncomfortable on that right foot peg. I wonder if they make a longer right foot peg, because I'm really pinching in on it. Get some crash protection, Dick, and you've got a new toy. I don't think I would change this seat out, because I think I'd like to mess around on it. I find my Enfield lives on these back roads, and I always tend to think that bigger bikes, well, I know that my bigger GS, I don't enjoy it as much on these back roads. But I am enjoying this bike out on this back road. I mean, you got to be really subtle with the throttle hand, or you get that jittering, or that snatchiness. But if you're subtle, if you got a smooth hand, it's really enjoying it. I'm getting a bit of that back end kind of. I don't know if the suspension is really stiff. It doesn't seem stiff because that stuff I was going over. But when I hit this, you kind of. There's a heavy ass on it. I hear this kind of, I don't know if it's chain slap or something, but there's definitely a clunking noise. I'll be honest. I was afraid of the height. I'm afraid of the height. That's why I won't have a 1200 GS. It's fat and it's tall, and I know I'm gonna drop it. And if I buy this bike, I know I'm gonna drop it. However, slide, yeah, get the use, there you go. If they have adequate crash protection for it, if my guys over at Outback Moto Trek make some crash bars for these, then I won't be afraid to drop the beautiful thing. And I would spend a lot more time on this bike practicing those real fundamental skills that momentum forgives. Alright, I'd really like to cut my engine for this horse, but I don't think I'd be able to get the bike started again. Oh, that was good. It got quiet. It got quiet. Good girl. I think I can appreciate. Triumph got a lot of flack for slapping a Scrambler name on their heavy street bike with a high exhaust. But I really do admire the progression. They didn't get rid of the street scrambler, and they call it a street scrambler, and you know they're acknowledging the styling cues of it. But they have made a very classy looking adventure bike. They've made something unique, and I will forever champion the unique. So it's not for everybody, not in any respect, but bravo, Triumph. This might be a Triumph worth buying. A little bit of traction control there, saving my sliding out, but you can lean this thing. There's a long way to lean. I am getting a lot more comfortable with this height. I am falling in love, ladies and gentlemen. I think the R9T is going to get jealous. My Royal Enfield is not going to get jealous. You want to know why? Because my Royal Enfield knows that's who I'm coming home to. She's not the jealous type. Oh, my commanding ride height. Almost tall enough to whack my head on that anti-gypsy gate. I am a bit concerned about these just swinging out there. If you hit that with a branch, if you hit that with a branch, no big deal. You catch that with a branch, you're losing one of your brake lines. And if you hit this one with a branch, you're hitting another one of your brake lines. So I don't like that. I'm trying to see what that... Maybe it's just a rattle of that. Oh, those move a little bit. Maybe it's that sound when you hit down hard on those shocks. I'm looking at it a bit closer. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm looking at it a bit closer than I do other bikes in my videos because this is convincing me. Uh-oh. There's a bit of... Oh, that's just... Oh, that's sweaty. That's so sweaty. I notice these covers on Triumphs get vulnerable to scratching and scuffing, so. We'll see. I have to admit, I was riding this bike out of a sense of responsibility. I really didn't think I could comment on the Scrambler as a style of bike if I didn't try the marquee version of it. I did not try this bike out of interest for myself, but I have to say, this bike has seduced me in a way that few bikes have in a very long time. But you know, it's got claws. You have to respect it. You have to remember what it is. This is a big, powerful machine, but it does take care of you a little better than other bikes of its kind. Right around 2,000 RPMs, it starts telling you to shift. So a little bit of a protest, a little bit of a knock. Here's a little filtering. I think the cones are false, but it's a little bit of filtering. Gives you a sense. I do love that it gives you. The sound is kind of like a chorus. It's not constant. It kind of comes in where you want it to come in, but then generally it's really quite tame. It's really quite quiet. Like, I can't hear it now, but when you give it a bit of gas or when you're coming up, it's just, it's like it's sounding the horns. Sound the horns! Dick has arrived!
If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.